What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay on this glorious February 12th. Hopefully, you guys are getting your Valentine's Day plans in order. Listen.
Oh, is that coming up?
Oh, Lord, Tim. Happy wife, happy life, right? If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. You know the drill there. And I see you sipping the old diesel over there as everybody's getting woke up here, falling into the chat, man. It's we're dealing with cold rain down here all week, but I was just looking. You guys got another 1 to 3 inches of snow hitting, don't you?
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of last weekend. You know, my family down in Milwaukee was all upset because they didn't really get any snow. They just got a little dusting. And then, you know, of course, we got like 8 inches of snow up here in Green Bay. And now it's the opposite today. So it looks like everybody to the south is getting the bulk of the snow. We're going to get a couple inches up here today, but it is cold, man. It's 5 degrees up here, man. It's chipper, you know.
Chilly. We got down to those single digits there for about, 3 or 4 days in a row. And everybody on the neighborhood Facebook page, man, the pops are busting. And it's just like they don't, it's not their fault. It's the builders' faults down here. But, you just don't expect it to get that cold that often. We usually get 1 or 2 weeks, so out of the year where it's like you'll look up and it's colder here than it is in Green Bay,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Anyway. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning. I appreciate y'all making us a part of it. If you guys would take a quick second, hit like, hit sub. Thank y'all for supporting everything we do here, man. This has been a blast. This year as we head into a brand new football season. Yeah, Mountain Man Pack, Tim. -22 in Montana this morning. Good Lord. Good Lord. That's not one of those walk out on the porch with your cup of coffee and just kind of take a look around the neighborhood mornings. That's the hang an extra blanket over the door type thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, put another log on the fire in the fireplace kind of day.
There's nothing better than a fireplace on a cold morning, man. Oh, it doesn't get any better. So let's hear Jason Y in the chat. Jay Love is admitting that the injuries really did affect him this season. Yeah, Jason, I love that he didn't mention it during the season too, right? That's just a testament to his, the person he is, the integrity he has as a player, rather than during the season making excuses for yourself. Right, that's how it would have been perceived. But yeah, when you seen that they weren't under center as often, and you didn't see those play action boots, those waggles, things that LaFleur likes to run out of the wide sets, it was obvious something was wrong. Right, they wanted to limit the amount of times that he got under center, and it sounds silly, but obviously having to bend those knees to get down under center, you do that, and people think, oh, that ain't a big deal. Go out in your yard today in that -5 degree weather, all right? And go out there, and I just want you to act like you're getting under center, bend your knees down where your ass is almost touching the ground, and I don't know, do that 30 times, and then go inside and, live your life, and then go back out later in the afternoon and do it 30 more times and watch yourself roll out of bed the next day. It's not as easy as we make it out to be, for sure. So if you've got a bum knee, obviously what happens, Tim, you start leaning on that other knee, and now you're going to cause aggravation in it for sure. So,
my knee.
That man knows all about it. King Tron with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Pick one player from around the league to have in exchange for one of our top players. Who and why? As always, thanks, boys. Thanks for your time. Go Pack, go. Hey, thank you, King Tron. We appreciate you, man. It's an interesting topic. Take one player from around the league to have in exchange for one of our top players. Who and why? So it's a little vague, Tron, like when you say one of our top players, you got to say what, top 5 on our team, and you trade them out for someone else. If you're talking about the same position, I don't know. It's tough, Tim. I'm trying to think of what comes to mind. We're always talking 3-tech, right? We're also talking center. If I had to give up a top, one of our top players, quote unquote, depends on what top player is described as, right? Kenny Clark is considered a top player according to our front office, right? Mine would be
Kenny Clark for Myles Garrett. There we go. Done.
I was going to say Kenny Clark for Creed Humphrey, and let's call it a day.
Oh, there you go. Switch the sides, right? And get better. Yeah. You know what? That's more realistic, right? Because you rarely see, position for position like moves. So that would probably make more sense. I think you're right.
Yeah. Makes sense. Everybody's saying Josh Myers for Creed Humphrey, LOL. Yeah, I don't think it's a top player.
Josh is one of our top players.
That's what I was saying. It's a little vague, Tron. Hopefully that answers your question, buddy. But one of our top players. I'm going to give up Kalen King for whoever. Insert the best cornerback in the game, right? But really, really interesting question for sure, man. There you go. King Tron says top 5 PFF players from our team for your choice.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes it tough. That makes it really tough. Because our top PFF players would be Josh Jacobs, right? And maybe this is a good exercise. Like, if you're giving up a top player for a top player, it really makes you kind of have to appreciate the players you got at the top. Who would you rather have in a top player for swap there, right? So like Josh Jacobs is at the top of the list for us, right? Zach Tom is at the top of the list for us. I'm trying to think on defense, Edgerrin Cooper up there toward the top, Xavier McKinney. Let's just stick with those 4, Tim.
Yeah, I ain't getting rid of none of them. So,
well, that's the thing. King Tron said, look, boys, I'm going to throw y'all a bone here of $5. You're going to have to get rid of one. So if I had to choose between Josh Jacobs, let's say Josh Jacobs, Zach Tom, Edgerrin Cooper, and Xavier McKinney, who would I be willing to give up?
Oh my gosh.
God, it's tough.
My brain hurts.
I hate to say it, but of those players, it would be and again, you can get a top player back. I got this, Tim. You just sit this one out, sir. I'm giving up Josh Jacobs for Saquon Barkley.
That's the easy one. I was thinking the same thing.
So you upgrade your team and you stick to King Tron's rules here. So there you go, right?
Yeah, I'll agree with that one for sure.
There you go. That's about all I can come up with. Other than that, man, I'm like, I don't know if there's another tackle I would want over Tom. I don't know if there's another linebacker I would want over Edgerrin Cooper at this point because, man, he didn't even get to play the entire year. They kept pulling, keeping him from going all in as being the mock and whatnot. Once he gets comfortable, he got comfortable at the end of the year, but once he's settled into his newly established role and he knows exactly what he's going to be doing every single game, man, that's going to be really exciting. So
he was the best guy around.
Yeah. Cowboy Corner. So I'm still not giving Josh Jacobs for Saquon. I love it. I love the consistency. I love it. So, all right, man. Appreciate the super chat there, Tron. That was a lot of fun. Let's go to Twitter real quick and just a couple things that caught my attention. We've been talking about the depth at defensive tackle here in this draft, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no complaints by taking a top 3 tech that falls to us in the draft at 23. But we got to start thinking about the fact that everybody's acknowledging how deep this defensive line draft is, and on the interior specifically. Like Kyle Crabb says here from the 33rd team, the contrast of guys like Alfred Collins and Jamari Caldwell and Kenneth Grant to guys like TJ Sanders and Walter Nolan and having everything in between on that spectrum has the makings of such a fun class to see what teams end up picking what ice cream flavor. Obviously talking about these guys can be deployed a little bit different. They've got different strengths, but they're all solid players. As much as I would like them to take a 3 tech with the 23rd pick, because I think there's a decent chance that someone like a Kenneth Grant or a Walter Nolan or someone like that sitting there, it really makes sense to trade back because you've got so many of those guys. And when we started the offseason, Tim, we talked about trade back. And then the more we do mock drafts, I'm going, man, if Kenneth Grant's there at 23 and we trade back and Kenneth Grant goes on to be a top 5 3 tech, I will not be able to live with myself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But what's your take on that and what Kyle Crabb's saying? It's cool to see other people who cover the draft so closely kind of confirm what we've seen this entire time looking at these different mocks and things.
It's true, though. I mean, I feel what you're saying there because I feel the same way, right? Like you would think, hey, you got to take a guy like that if he's on the board. But then there's also logic to trading back because you look at guys that are like, Jaire Alexander, Derek Harmon, there's talent there that at the position that I think is worth it. But that's a premier position of need for us, right? We're trying to get better in the trenches. And it's like, I just don't know, how sure of a hit you're going to get if you trade back and try to load up. Obviously you'll be able to load up on talent overall by getting more picks or whatever. But I think if you can get one of these premier guys, whether that's on the O-line or the D-line for that matter, in the first round, I think you pull the trigger and stick and pick there. I mean, that's just my gut feeling right now. We'll see how it goes here as we're, heading into the draft in just a few short weeks, believe it or not. It's almost March. Before you know it, it'll be April. And before you know it, it'll be draft time. So, right now I'm thinking we stick and pick there and you go best available at the position of need on the board. But I wouldn't put it past Goody to make a move out of the first round because there is a ton of talent there. It depends on who they really like, you know.
Right. If their board matches ours, sure. It may not, guys. They may have somebody that we've got in the 40s, and they see them as a top tier talent. And if he falls to 23, they're taking him, right? That could happen too. But Jason Y in the chat says trade down for more picks. Not a huge difference in talent, but number of players will be a difference maker. And it kind of goes hand in hand, right, Jason, with what our boy Daniel Jeremiah said. And from 20 to 60, man, those players are kind of in the same rank. Like they're very similar in terms of talent. So if you're drafting at 23, just outside of that top 20, and the board falls like Daniel Jeremiah may see it falling, it makes sense to trade back and grab more picks because you're not getting any better talent sticking and picking. You're getting a little better talent probably, but not enough to say, hey, we could have traded back and gotten 3 of these players in that 20 to 60 range as opposed to just 1, that type of thing. So I think it's a fascinating conversation for sure. Josh Martin says the number 1 pick is available for trade. I know it's less than 1% we trade, but what would you give up to get it, man? That's a good question because when you look at the board, and we're going to do a mock draft here real soon. This is next on the agenda outside of defensive tackle first draft. We're going to do a mock draft probably one day this week coming up where we trade up and get for the top tier guys. And when you talk about the top tier guys here, Tim, what we've got is Travis Hunter 1, Abdul Carter edge out of Penn State 2, Ashton Gianti 3, and then Mason Graham 4. To me, those 4 have differentiated themselves. They've separated themselves, I should say, from the rest of the pack as the top prospects in the draft, and we've got all those in the same tier. So with that being said, if you were to trade up for the number 1, you have to trade up for the number 1. Or not have to. What would you be willing to give up where you'd say, hey, that's worth it to go up and get a top-tier talent? Because if our board is correct, what we're saying here, Tim, is Mason Graham is the dominant 3-tech in this draft. It's also saying Travis Hunter is the dominant shutdown corner in this draft. It's also saying Abdul Carter is going to be a 10-year solid-ass edge defender out of Penn State, and Ashton Gianti is the best running back in this draft. How much would you be willing to give up there, man? Because you'd have to mortgage the future to go from 23 to 1, man. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure.
We're talking like probably at least 2 firsts and a second, maybe even 3 firsts to get up that high.
Yeah, and possibly a player or something crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I think if we're talking about Mason Graham, that's there's a guy that it may be worth considering, or even a Travis Hunter, but I just don't know if we're going to give up all that capital to make a move like that. But I think you're right. I think it would be multiple early round, for sure, first round picks, and possibly 2 or 3 picks to go up, or even 4. But it's interesting because Emilio brought this up last night. Like how many guys can we really draft this year anyway that we think we're even going to sign and put on the team, as far as roster availability and contract availability. So I would agree that at least, interior defensive line, I feel like is enough of a priority that it might warrant or justify moving up. But I just don't know if Goody's willing to give up the capital that he'd have to give up, because you're talking into the next, year or two, we're going to impact the team in future drafts. I would assume it would be picks this year and next year and possibly the year after. So I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting question, though, for sure. Judah Tom says, we don't have enough roster open for more picks. Our team need more top-end talent. What we've got in terms of needs here, Judah Tom, is 3 offensive linemen, 1 wide receiver, 1 defensive tackle, 3 corners, and 2 linebackers is our need sets right now. That could slightly change, but if that sticks right there, you're looking at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players you need, and we've only got 7 picks. Yep. If I'm understanding that right, like Caldwell Corner says here, Packers only have 7 picks this year. I'm going to guess Goody wants to get to that double-digit picks mark again. There you go. So, with the needs sitting right now, we need 10 picks to fill it, but there's free agency as well. So if you go get 2 to 3 players, then you got enough picks to fill your roster out. And we know they're going to go after undrafted free agents too. So I think it could go either way, to be honest with you. I don't think Caldwell Corner, I don't think Goody's sitting there like, hey, man, we got to get to 10 picks. But as you're pointing out, there's precedent for that, right? That he wants to get into that double-digit range in terms of draft picks for sure. I think that's a good comment. J. Cole says, I know we're drafting 3 techs in our mock draft, but I wouldn't put it past Scoot to trade back in the first, take Trey Amos. Yeah, we've done multiple mocks, and when we went corner first, that's what we ended up with. We ended up trading out into the second round, right, at the 33rd pick, and we took Trey Amos at corner. Now, Dane Brugler, if we have time, we're going to hit on his top 100 here. He has Trey Amos significantly lower, guys. Matter of fact, I won't put it on the screen, but I'll just tell you where he's at. He has Trey Amos all the way down in the 93 spot.
Wow.
So you're seeing a lot of discrepancy, which I think is really cool because it's going to – when we add Dane Brugler's information into our board, what you're going to see is Trey Amos is going to go from 29. 33rd team has him at 30. Daniel Jeremiah does not have him in the top 50, and Dane Brugler has him at 93. So that's going to be interesting. If once we put Dane Brugler's information in, he is going to drop significantly. He's probably going to drop into that second round range, which is where we've been taking him here when we do our mocks, right? So now, again, other mock drafts, matter of fact, I think it was it Kyle Krabs that did it? Yeah, he took Trey Amos at 23. So, he's got a little more value on him. Obviously, he did at the time. And Daniel Jeremiah had Trey Amos not even going in the first round, right, if I remember correctly. So let me see. Yeah,
bottom line, it's going to be first or second round probably for him.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about the draft is like you don't know where these guys are going to – you don't know where other teams have them value. You probably hear through the grapevine, and is that misinformation or not, right?
Yep.
And you hear someone talk about that. That's the stuff you got to decipher. So understand what you're saying there, Jay. That I wouldn't be surprised if Goody went that route for sure. I know a lot of people would be pissed off, though, if they trade out of the first round for sure. But anything else you want to add there to the depth at defensive line talk there, Tim?
No, I think it's totally valid. There's talent there. And here's the thing. We're going to be wrong or somebody's going to be wrong about at least one of these guys. One of these guys is going to go early and they're going to end up being a dumpster fire. And then we're going to get a guy that's middle to later rounds that's going to get picked up and he's going to be a stud. It happens all the time. You just hope that your team is the one that picks the right guy. As long as we get that 3 tech and the depth that we need in the trenches, I'm good. I don't care. First round, second round, third round, trade up, trade back, whatever we got to do. But it's really speculative at this point. And kind of a good segue into this next thread right here. The biggest risers and then the biggest losers basically are the guys that have dropped. You're already starting to see momentum on these different boards. So the more mocks you do, the more you're going to kind of have an idea of how things may possibly turn out,
Yeah, definitely. Caldwell Corner says, I don't know how you guys have felt, but I personally like Barron way more than any other corner in this draft. I don't want to settle for Amos or Chevelle. I think he's talking about Ravel. So if he's talking about Barron, he's talking about Jaire Barron. Here's our cornerbacks in list of where we got them ranked. We got Travis Hunter 1. He'll be long gone, obviously. Second best corner, we've got Siobhan Ravel in the 11th spot. And then we've got Will Johnson in the 14th spot. And then we got Jaire Barron out of Texas in the 17th spot. So we got Jaire Barron as our 4th best corner, right? I think that's right. 1, 2, 3. So he's our 4th best corner, but definitely a top 20 talent, in my opinion. So that's where we got him at.
Versatile corner too. Plays slot, can play the boundary. Kind of in that sweet spot. He's not too short. He's not too tall. He's like 5'11" or something. 200 pounds, solid. Looks good on tape too. I didn't do a deep dive or nothing, but I saw a highlight reel and looks pretty good.
Yeah. Josh Martin says, I think we need to start drafting quality over quantity. Well, it depends on what you mean by quality, Josh, because Goody has said, he said last year, we've been able to get top 50 prospects with all 3 first-round picks. In Goody's eyes, he's getting quality, and we're looking at it like he isn't.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So, like, it just depends on what you mean by quality. Your idea of quality be totally different than mine, be totally different than Goody's, He thinks he's getting quality. That's what he's going for. When he said that last year, I thought that's awesome, that he feels like he got 3 players in their top 50. And we're looking at it going, well, there's no way because you drafted him in the 70s or you drafted him in the 90s. Their board doesn't give a damn about these mock drafts or the consensus big board, right? Their board is their board, and every team's is probably a little different, I would imagine. King Tron with the super chat, thank you so much. He says, in your opinion, what are the top 3 positions in this year's class? Man, that's a great question. Let's just stick to the board. Let's go top 10 and see which one pops the most here, okay? Cornerback, edge, running back, defensive line, quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, quarterback, offensive tackle. So according to our board, and then defensive line, according to our board, the quality, when you say the top 3 positions in this year's class, at the top end, in the top 10, what I'm seeing is 3 tech and quarterback is what's showing up to me. Okay. Now, if you're talking overall draft, that's tough. You'd have to go through and kind of say, all right, which positions are in the top 100 the most, right? The thing that sticks out to me the most, and it's hard to do 3 positions, defensive tackle seems really, really deep in this draft. There's a bunch of them. I feel like cornerback is a little thin when you get out of the first round. That's just me personally. Not that there ain't going to be some late round gems, but just kind of how I see that. When it comes to quarterback, I feel like it's somewhat thin because you've got 2 at the top, and then it really trickles off, right? So can't say that. Running back, there's some solid running backs in this draft. It's just, people undervalue running back, especially when it comes to the draft. I'm trying to think through each position. Offensive line.
Edge. There's a lot of edge.
It does feel like there's a lot of edge. Yeah. That's a good point, Tim.
Yeah.
Like last night, we uncovered one. Jacob said throw edge on the board. Or was it was either you or Jacob said put edge in the column to go try to draft. And when we did, we found a guy that was in our top 50. The issue I have with that is if you draft that guy, then you're saying people are already complaining that LVN isn't getting enough snaps, that Gary isn't getting enough snaps. If you add another edge, guess what's going to happen? Their snaps are going to go down again, right? Yeah. So that's the only issue I have with that is I feel like I would rather a heavier rotation in the 3 tech and get a young stud at 3 tech to rotate in and press that pocket a little bit more. But
I agree.
And again, people look at Devontae Wyatt like he had a bad year. I don't think he's lived up to that first round talent status. That's just me personally. I would not hit him with the franchise tag. I would not hit Quay with the 5th-year option. I wouldn't hit Wyatt with it, and I wouldn't hit Quay with it. I think that Goody will probably hit one of those 2 players, and we'll find that out real soon as we've got. Let me see. I think I've got that date right here, Tim, if I remember. 5th-year option date. So we slapped the 5th-year option on Savage on April 29th. So that's going to be after the draft that we make that decision on the 5th-year option. So that'll be coming down the pike. But
interesting. However, the draft shapes out for us may determine which one of those guys, if any, gets the option, right?
Right. Exactly. So hopefully that kind of answered your question there, Tron. Thank you for the super chat, bub. We appreciate you supporting the show, my man. All right. So this graphic I want to give a shout out to Grinding the Mocks. Okay. And there's a gentleman that I reached out to that I found out who actually runs this Twitter account and just told him we were going to give him a shout out today because they've done some really cool data, some information here with their X posts. The 4 biggest risers over the last 2 weeks in Grinding the Mocks, EDP plus. Okay. So this is they're essentially where they're being drafted at in the mock draft database, right? Number 1, Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami. So he's soaring up the list right now. Number 2, Jaire Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo, is another player. Number 3, Azare, however you say the first name, Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State. Number 4, Carson Schweisinger, linebacker out of UCLA. You guys remember, I want to say he chose to skip the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl, whichever one it was. And it was kind of like, whoa, what's going on there? He's continuing to rise up draft board. So if we hit each of these individually, just to kind of show you how far they've jumped and where they're peaked at now. Elijah Arroyo now, he's jumped up to around the 27 mark in terms of where he's being drafted in mock drafts. That's with the Miami Hurricanes there. So obviously he's starting to soar up the ranks. Next is Jaire Alexander. This is one that's been talked about a lot. He was dominant during All-Star week. He is now up around the 36 spot, as looks like where they've got the graph at, 32, 36-ish, somewhere in there. So he's knocking on the door to be a first-round pick for sure. Another riser is Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State, and he is now somewhere around the 30 mark, it looks like. So EDP 29.7, right around the 30 mark there. His position rank, they've got him as the fourth best corner. So if we were to cross-reference these and see where we've got Thomas out of Florida State, let's see here. Where are you at, sir? There's Benjamin Morrison at 75. So we've got Thomas in the 79 spot. And people were going, Clayton, how can there be that big of a difference between your board and others? Our board is specifically designed to try to avoid this type of stuff. Again, our board isn't set up to try to predict what the Packers or any other team is going to do. Our board is set up to go, let's try to keep the late draft buzz noise out of our board, because we can always go to the 33rd team board. We can always go to the consensus big board. We can always go to the PFF big board, and you're going to see these guys shoot up those boards. That's cool. Got that information. I want our board to be very, very aware and built around how did people feel about these players at the end of the season when football stopped, right? And we can kind of compare and contrast our board to others. So we've got him, again, at 79, as where other people have him going up around 30 now, Tim, out of Florida State. So
yeah, I'm a little bit higher myself on my little short list here with Thomas. Passer rating when targeted last year, 50.2, graded out at a 76.4. This is I don't know, this could go either way, right? You never know how a guy's going to turn out in the NFL, but I think he's more of a man coverage corner, right? He's more of like a man-to-man kind of guy. I don't know if
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at PFF. He may be. I was looking at my chart here, and he dominated Senior Bowl. We gave him the maximum bonus. DJ's got him at 43. Kyle Krabs had him at 73. And I'm not sure. Let's see where Brugler had him. Brugler probably would be one that's going to shift this board a lot. Thomas, he's got at 42, so he's got him right there where DJ's got him. When you see Dane Brugler and Daniel Jeremiah have a prospect in the same spot within one or two spots in the 40s, Tim, it's probably something to that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a cheese emoji next to him, do we? We did not. Did we take a meeting?
Let me see here. No, we did not.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, I'm trying to adjust it over just to make sure I'm not missing it. No cheese emoji next to him. No.
Okay.
So he's going to be one that's it's going to be interesting to see where he falls to or rises to. The next one here is linebacker Carson Schweisinger. He's now up to around the 46 spot, somewhere around 45 to 46. And I want to say we had him significantly lower. I could be wrong. But I want to say I'm trying to think of what brung him down to. I'll try to give you guys an idea of why he was lower on our board. Maybe he was higher than I remember. Wow, if he's that low, that's wild. Let me do a search here. I can't even find him. Let's go Schweisinger.
PFF's got him 79th out of all linebackers in the draft.
Here
got him at 48 right now.
Yeah, we've got him at 54 is where we've got him.
Okay.
So the reason I was hesitant, we don't have a grade for him in 23 and 22. So all we can go off of is 24. And we need to do a little bit of checking on. I want to say there was a transfer issue or something like that. So
right.
It's like you've only got
5 games in 22, 2 games in 23.
It's something. I don't know if it's eligibility or something. I don't have the red mark as if he was injured, but I couldn't find enough information either there. So
here's a guy that here's a guy that you have to you can only go off of last year's numbers. I mean, there's literally nothing. There's no precedence for him to go back. You know, like we talk about the Jaden Reed factor, right? You know, take the collective of your last couple of years. I mean, you can't do that with this guy.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure there's people out there right now, Tim, Packer fans, that are like, why do you even care about linebacker? If Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie do not return, then you've got Tyron Hopper, right, who's going to be behind Quay and going to be behind Adrian Cooper. And we carried roughly 5 last year most of the years. So you got 2 spots to fill. And here's the thing. Is Quay the guy of the future? Some people think he is. Some people don't think he is, right? And on top of that, when you're in your 4-3 base, if you can upgrade over Tyron Hopper with someone like a Schweisinger, a Jack Kaiser, or Jay Higgins is another one that we keep drafting because he's so high on our board. You're going to have those guys contribute on special teams as well. Nobody cares about special teams until the special teams give up a touchdown or something. And then you go, oh, of course, special teams is crumbling. It's like that pendulum's constantly swinging back and forth, But, yeah, in terms of Swisinger, we got him in the 54 spot, all right? Daniel Jeremiah has him at 37. Kyle Krabs has him at 36, right? So the thing that's bringing him down on our board was the consensus big board at 107 at the end of the year and the PFF big board at 55 along with his PFF grade. He was the 87th best linebacker in the draft. So when I look at Swisinger, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just going, man, 46 seems a little too rich to me.
Yeah.
But our lead scout and Daniel Jeremiah is saying, no, he's actually worthy of the 37th pick. And if we look at Dane Brugler, where he's got him, Dane Brugler has Swisinger 43rd. So, yeah, he's definitely rising on boards. So something there. You know what it makes me think of, Tim? Someone who didn't play a lot, and all of a sudden, bang, he's just ended up being a great pro is Clay Matthews. Remember Clay Matthews kind of soared at the end. And it was one of those guys that when he got to college, he weighed like less than 200 pounds or something. And then he put on a bunch of weight and worked his ass off and then made it on special teams. And in his last year in college, busted onto the scene there in USC, was able to make a difference and get himself drafted. That year there was 3 players, Brian Cushing, I can't believe I remember this, Malalaga, and Clay Matthews, all 3 linebackers from USC that got drafted that year. So pretty wild.
I was thinking while we're on the subject of linebacker, like you mentioned, the fact that let's just assume for a second that there's no McDuff and there's no Eric Wilson, right? And so you're talking Quay, you're talking Coop, and you're talking Hopper as your linebackers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Quay would be going into year 4.
Yep.
So that's the closest you have to a veteran. And then you got Coop in year 2 and you got Hopper in year 2, which for all intents and purposes, it's basically year 1 for Tyron Hopper. We didn't see him play a lot of snaps last year. So I would assume his role is going to increase. I'm saying that to say this, don't rule out the possibility of snagging a linebacker in free agent. And we talk in free agency, we talk about adding a veteran presence to this locker room, and we've talked a lot about receiver at that position. I'm looking at Dre Greenlaw. He's a free agent. And that's a guy that's old, but not too old. There's a few guys that, we might be able to take a look at and maybe work a nice deal. I'm not saying go get, Levante David at 35 years old or anything like that.
Right.
And obviously, who knows what's up with Bobby Wagner, if he's gonna hang it up or run it back with Washington. But I do see a few names, especially a guy that maybe you're looking at to come in and not play 50, 60, 70 snaps a game. Maybe a guy that you need, to play 20 snaps a game and just provide some veteran stability in the linebacker room. I wouldn't rule out possibly picking up a linebacker in free agency.
Yeah, that's a good point. King Tron, been a member for a month. Appreciate you, buddy. Says, thank you guys as always. Hoping for Harmon myself, talking about defensive lineman Derek Harmon. Yeah, I wouldn't be upset with Derek Harmon at some point in the draft either. Matter of fact, let me just tell you exactly where he's at. I think we got him a little bit lower than some of the other guys, but he's 28th on our board, Tim. Derek Harmon would be no problem. So definitely someone that if they took it 23, I wouldn't be scoffing at that at all, according to our board. But appreciate you, Tron. Thank you so much. Yeah, and Tim, what you were saying about free agent linebackers in this order: the 18th ranked free agent Dre Greenlaw, the 34th ranked free agent Nick Bolton out of Kansas City, number 45 overall in the free agent list Bobby Wagner, number 58 Ernest Jones, number 61 Zach Bond, who was the highest graded linebacker according to PFF this year, 28 years old. That's wild.
No way Philly lets him go. No way.
That would be crazy, man. Yeah, that's one of those dudes. They're going to have to pick and choose. I don't think they can keep everybody because we've seen that list on that defense of all the free agents. That's one dude I would want in the middle of my defense, man. He made play after play this year. 66, you got Jamian Sherwood. He was with the Jets last year. 68, Levante David from Tampa Bay. 89, Robert Spillane. Oh, dump truck Spillane. Look at that in the 89 spot. Number 91, Tyrell Dodson out of Miami. And then number 98, Eric Kendricks from Dallas. So of all those, the one that kind of grabs my attention the most, if you were to say, Clayton, you can pick one of these free agents to sign, man, you guys know where I'm going. I don't know if he's going to be available. Like that Bobby Wagner for a year. Everybody laughed at us last year, and he just came out and freaking dominated once again. Now, watch this be the year that we do sign him, and then he falls off the cliff, right? Dre Greenlaw is interesting as well at 27 years old. His PFF grade last year at 82, but he only played 34 snaps. The problem I got with Dre Greenlaw is PFF grade in 2022, 79, and then dropped to a 73 in 2023, and then got hurt in 2024. So if you're following the trend, he's kind of trending down, and he got hurt. Not a good combination. Bobby Wagner, 90, 82, 88. Still holding strong. The other one that's interesting is Jamie and Sherwood, who's projected to him only $7 million per year on a 2-year deal. He was with the Jets in 2024. His PFF grades were 79, 76, and 73. So you got a pretty consistent grading there, you know?
Absolutely.
All right, there you go. So that's just kind of a look at linebacker. I didn't plan on us spending that much time on linebacker, but guys, there's potentially 2 voids we got to fill there. So, again, going back to some of these guys, Jaire Alexander, let's see where we got him at on our board, because I want to say he might be a little lower than most people's boards. Jaire Alexander, where are you, sir? Sure, I'm overlooking him. I just need to start searching on the first try here. I want to say he was lower. Yeah, we've got Jaire Alexander, Tim, in the 121 spot. And I'm telling you, everybody's talking about this dude's about to break into the first round. And if you're wondering why we have him so low, his PFF grade in 2024, he was the 4th best defensive lineman. Stud, right? The year before, he was 43rd. The year before, he was 109. So he's gotten better every year according to PFF, but the PFF big board had him at 175. The consensus big board had him at 193. So that's what's bringing him down on our board. He got the Senior Bowl bonus of 5 points because he was dominant. Daniel Jeremiah does not have him in his top 50. And the 33rd team does not have him in his top 100. Dane Brugler, however, when it comes to Jaire Alexander at the 3 tech, this is a fascinating player, man. It really is. He has Jaire Alexander, Dane Brugler does, in the 67 spot. So mock drafts have him soaring up the boards, but I think, Tim, it's because of that Senior Bowl performance, and the people we trust are still going, hold your horses. He's not quite a first-round pick, so that's what it feels like anyway.
I would agree. I think that's what's so cool about this grinding the mocks chart. You got your experts, your fans, and your media all on the scale. You can kind of get a barometer on it, but I think a lot of people are high on Alexander just because of his grade. 90.2 according to PFF.
Solid, man.
Solid grade. It's pretty much been steady since 2022. So if you look at 22, 23, and 24, he seems pretty consistent. You don't see a lot of fluctuation. I'm still of the belief that he's probably early second round pick. That's just my humble opinion. Yep.
Yeah. Again, we've got him in the 121 spot. I don't think he's going to fall that far. I don't think there's any chance of it. But I'm not going to change my board to cater. Like we're going to add Dane Brugler's information in, and once Daniel Jeremiah's got his actual top 150 ranking, it'll go in. Same thing with the 33rd team, and that will adjust. He may rise up boards, but I want to know that these guys, we've got him lower than everyone else. Why? That's a trigger to go, okay, let's take a look, right? So King Tron with Super Chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, 1 hot take prediction each for Goots draft day. My hot take prediction, Tim, is that the Packers trade out of the first round. They trade out of the first round, and everybody boos the hell out of them in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And we're just going to sit back and eat cannolis and sip daddy sodas and not worry about it one bit because we know how deep this draft is. What's your hot take, Tim? They going quarterback at 23?
No, and since you took mine, because that was that would have been my prediction. I'll go ahead and say we're going to pull an Eric Stokes again. We're going to take a corner in the first round.
Okay,
that'll be my hot take.
Got it. And some people would say that's not a hot take but man, look at precedent, right? Like, it has not worked out taking a corner in the first round in a long time. And some people are now saying it was Jaire actually worth it, based off of, did it end up working out? Did it get you a Lombardi, right? one player is not going to get you a Lombardi. It's not going to win one, not going to lose one, obviously. So, you know what I'd love to see happen? Here's a hot take that has nothing to do with the draft. I would love to see Jaire return this year, like nothing ever happened, right? And just go back to the dominant Jaire Alexander. That would be
Took it down the sideline, turned over with my guys, gave the football to a little kid wearing 23.
I would love to see that happen. I'm just not betting the farm on it. It just feels like something ain't right. So, who was it? I think they said Wildy and them did that little exercise the other day. I think it was Jaire they were talking about. I could be wrong. You guys correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. 2%. He said there's like a 2% chance he returns, I think is who he was talking about, if I remember.
Yeah.
But again, we didn't have the full context there. But there's your hot take, Tron. Thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. Yeah, as Randy says here, a healthy Ja would be great. It's just, man, how many years are we going to say this, right, Randy? Like, that's the problem. Every year it's, well, if Ja's healthy this year, if Ja's healthy there, and then we look up and he missed half the season, Not his fault. Injuries happen. But sooner or later, you got to start blaming yourself for, continuing to go down the same road and the same problem happens, right? So,
yep.
Interesting. And again, some of these players, obviously there was no corner involved here, but I thought that was interesting. I want to give a shout out once again to @GrindingMox. Go give them a follow, guys. I'm going to give them a shout out on Twitter as well. Try to get them some more followers because they're doing the Lord's work over there for sure with some of this mock draft information. And again, mock drafts aren't everything, but I think it's important to keep an eye on some of this stuff for sure. All right. Next, same Twitter account here, Tim, and this is the 4 biggest fallers over the last 2 weeks. So here's the guys that are following in the mock drafts: Nick Scorton, or Scourton, however you say it, edge defender out of Texas A&M, wide receiver Tetero McMillan out of Arizona. Tim, if he falls to us at number 23, that would have been a good hot take. Wide receiver first round.
Yeah, wide receiver first round.
We swung and missed on that one, didn't we? Number 3, Ariante Ursery. Let him fall, baby. Out of Minnesota. Number 4, Siobhan Rovell, cornerback out of East Carolina. You notice these are names that I'm high on.
Yeah.
We're not moving the board just because other people are saying they're falling. We're not going to do it. So if we were to dive into each of those just one at a time here, Nick Scourton, edge defender out of Texas A&M. I'm going to look him up on my board, Tim. Do you have anything on him at all? There, Nick Scourton.
Let's see. Scourton, A&M. Looking him up right now.
Okay. I've got mine. I'll get your take in a second. So he's dropping, according to this data here from Grinding the Mocks, they've got him dropping down to around the 31 spot now. I've got him at 26 out of Texas A&M. He was at the Senior Bowl. We did not meet with him, but I've got him in the 26th spot. So I think him falling to 31, you're still in that ballpark of where he should be, but I've got him worthy of the 26th pick. What about you, man?
I've got him right around the same area on my short list. The thing I like about him is, and I'm sure Goody would like the same thing. He's a baby, 20 years old. So we got the age factor. Seems to be like Jay's saying here, Packers type of player, 6'4", 285. He's got good size. I don't understand why he's falling. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And again, this is mock draft information, Tim. These are people doing mock drafts. That's all it is, right? Yeah. So it's not like this was a former scout that reported this. It's just compiling the information of people that are rising and falling in the public eye is the way I understand the information. So J. Cole said he's a Packer type of player too. Like you said, Tim Young, Goody DiCaprio over there, right?
Yep.
And Joseph says Ursery falling is such a mistake. I have to agree with that. We'll get to him in a second. I think this is let's move on to Tetero McMillan first. So they've got Tetero McMillan falling to around, okay, it ain't far, to the 9 spot, around 8 or 9. I've got Tetero McMillan right in the 7th spot. So this is right there. He's my top receiver in this draft. If you were to say, Clayton, you can choose any receiver at 23 and they will be available, this is my dude right here. They're listing him as fallen, Tim, but that's not a very far fall at all,
No, and he's probably going to still be around top 10 pick, right? 15 range at the most. I don't think he falls to us at all.
Unfortunately, I agree because that would be one that I'd be, oh, hell yes, run that card to the podium at 23 for a wide receiver. The only other one that's close for me would be Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I've got him in the 26 spot or 27 spots where we've got him, I think. No, 26, that's right. And then after that, we got Luther Burden at 30. So those two are a little bit of a reach, especially wide receiver not being as important a position in my opinion. But it doesn't matter what we think; it matters what Goody thinks, right? That's what it comes down to. So let's move on to the other one. Let me throw this down here before I forget real quick. We'll get ready to wrap up here in a second. We'll keep it a short show since it's just two of us. Next is Ariante Ursary, all right, offensive tackle. He's now fallen to around the 44 spot, Tim, somewhere between 42 and 44 is where they've got him falling. And I'm trying to remember where we got him because he had recently fell on our board when we added some more information in. We've got Ursary in the 49 spot is where we've got him sitting at. So they've got him at 44. This is around that ballpark of where we've got him there. At one point, it looks like he probably peaked well within the first round. Looks like probably somewhere around the 28 spot, something like that. Mm-hmm. But what do you think here in terms of Ursary?
I think he's really good, solid player at his position, but I think the Packers are not the only team in the league that likes versatile linemen, and I don't think he's very versatile. I think he's a pure left tackle. Played a handful of snaps, I believe, at left guard, but predominantly a left tackle. Mm-hmm. And that's hurting him a little bit.
Makes sense. Dane Brugler's got him at 50, so even lower than where he's trending to here. So he's got him at 50. Daniel Jeremiah did not have him in his top 50, and the 33rd team had him at 56. So us having him at 49, we're probably higher on him than most people are. The thing that brings him up for us is in 2023, he was the 11th best tackle in college football. In 2024, he was the 53rd, and the consensus big board had him at 29 early. So that's where we've got him. We've got him in the 49 spot. So Ursary's an interesting prospect, man. If he's there in the second round, I'd be all about them taking him, me personally. Next, you got Siobhan Ravel, cornerback. Guy. This guy's interesting, man. If you look into his history and where he's played at multiple schools and obviously ends up in East Carolina, he's a dude that early on everybody absolutely loved. I still have him in the 11 spot. They've got him falling as far as 31 to 35, Tim. If Siobhan Ravel Jr. is on the board when we pick at 23, I'm all about running the card up there. That's just me based off my
information. Do we have anything on his injury?
I'm showing no red on our board, so should be good.
He played 3 games last year. Mm-hmm. So why did he play 3 games in 2024?
There was one. Now let's see here. See if we can find out real quick. Because there was one that or there was multiple players that there was some weird stuff that happened. Let's just go injury. Let's see if we get any injury news here. Top prospect. So he tore his ACL in September.
There it is. Okay.
There you go. Tore ACL in a practice this week. Blah blah blah. Per sources. So yeah, that's what it was. So in September, and the season starts what? So he played the first 3 games, tore his ACL. So that's something that's going to come into factor. That's a good grab there, Tim. So on 24, I'm going to tag that with a red mark. And this is why we do. I'm so glad you brought that up, man. This is why we do this stuff. So
we'd have to look at 2023 numbers for him to get kind of an idea.
And he was the 67th best corner in 2023. Okay. PFF Big Board had him at 30. Consensus Big Board had him at 24. Kyle Krabs of the 33rd team had him in the 7 spot. And Daniel Jeremiah does not have him in his top 50. So Dane Brugler is going to shift his grade for us tremendously. He's probably going to sink on the board quite a bit if he doesn't have a good grade on him. And he's got him in the 32 spot. So that's probably about where he'll end up on our board. Once that takes place, once we get Daniel Jeremiah's grade in and Dane Brugler's grade, wouldn't be surprised if he ends up right there on the backside of the first round. So with the updated board, that would suggest you don't run that card up there.
Right.
And then you throw into effect the red there with the injury, although we'll see him, I'm sure, at the combine or something like that. That'll justify, okay, he's completely healthy. But that's going to be really interesting for sure. So,
23 also. So, not
What was his PFF grade in 2023? Do you have it, Tim? If you don't, I'll go
let's see. I got it. 84. Oh, no, not 23. That was they've got him 80. PFF's got him at an 84 overall.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find the 2023 grade.
Yeah, see, PFF Big's Board now all of a sudden have him at 34, where when we took the information and we had him at 24. So his PFF grades, he only had 25 snaps in 2022. So you're talking about a guy that's kind of raw there as well.
Right.
81.5. And again, he was the 67th best cornerback of 2023. And then he jumped to an 84 in 2024. But my thing is 100 snaps. I don't count the grade. I will put NA if you don't have at least 100 snaps. He had 204 snaps that he played at an 84 level. And here's the thing that increases his value a lot, according to the draft community. 6'3", 193. And he is an outside corner. There's no reason to think he's versatile there in that regard with that. So, yeah, that's a dude that's probably going to end up on our board toward the bottom of the first round, would be my guess. And it looks like everybody else is kind of in agreement here with the way he's trending downward. So, going to be interesting to see how far he falls. He may fall hell outside of the second round, you know. Remember Kalen King? Kalen King was the top corner going into the college football season. Then all of a sudden he fell all the way to the 7th round by the end of the year and everything went through. So, it'll be interesting there for sure. All right, let's see. Is there anybody else? I think that's all of them. Yeah, so that's all of them from Grinding the Mocks. Like I said, give a shout out to them. You guys go give them a follow at Grinding Mocks over on X. They're an excellent follow. We're at the 51-minute mark, Tim. There was something else I wanted to hit here real quick. The Max Crosby talk. Obviously, everybody's he's one of about 4 or 5 names that's got Packer fans really excited. This was from the Up and Adams podcast. So we're going to play this audio in the background real quick. And this was Max kind of specifically talking about his situation, right? There's multiple factors that come in. He had the injuries coming back from. He's making his rounds talking about he's healthy now. There's the contract aspect if they trade him. Do the Raiders actually want him? Let's hear it from his mouth and see if you can kind of pick up on how does he feel like this situation is going to go here. Here we go. Max Crosby with K. Adams on Up and Adams.
Like, it started with the Lions. Then there's like Buffalo, you got Green Bay. There's a million teams. And for me, I'm like, I feel like my own fans from the Raiders and just fans in general, like they get mad at me through other teams' love.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's weird.
You well enough, but I feel like it's changed a little bit. Am I wrong? You have a tattoo, Raider. Okay. And now it's like, but now it's like, well, I don't know you. Yeah. Lions thing happens, and now I feel like, okay, Cam Jordan sat here yesterday, and I said, would you pull a Myles Garrett, go get yourself a ring? He said, absolutely not. So that's one end. Then there's Myles Garrett demanding a trade, requesting a trade. Where are you? Where are you on from I'm not leaving to I'm requesting a trade?
Right now,
you're allowed, man.
I'm taking it one step at a time. There's obviously the contract thing that has to be hashed out. That's one part of it. There's also what's the plan? You know what I mean? I've had the opportunity to sit with front office and ownership and head coach and GM. Like I've been having those conversations and continue to have that as far as what's the plan moving forward. Because I have one body and I can only play for so long. And the way I play, like I'm gonna play with reckless abandon. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna play forever. I want an opportunity to win. That's all that matters to me. I do believe in what we're doing so far and what I've heard and what I've seen. And I'm just going to continue taking it one step at a time. So there's so many different elements to it. Like I said, from the contract to this and that, you got to figure out who's our future at certain positions, things like that. So I'm truly, and I'm not just saying this to be like politically correct, I'm literally taking it one day at a time. For me, I want to win no matter what. Like I'm an ultimate competitor. I want a chance. And I don't want to join the damn Chiefs and get a Super Bowl. That would mean absolutely nothing to me. I want to join, if I want to be a part, not join and start controversy. I want to be a part of winning in a culture that is about winning. And that's all that matters to me. At the end of the day, like I want to be in the Hall of Fame and I want to go and I want to.
And you deserve it. And you shouldn't feel bad about doing what you want to do.
No, absolutely.
And I love that for you.
I don't feel bad about it. I want to be a Super Bowl champ and a Hall of Fame.
Let's go. Tell me what you're doing with that.
He was the best guy around.
So here's the thing. People are going to have different opinions on what he was saying there, right? Some are going to say, let's just go to the chat. I want to get everybody's reaction. And let me hit the super chat real quick. King Tron, love the call-in concept. By the way, keep it short and sweet. Known regulars, on topic. You guys are great with interacting and being informative. Thumbs up emoji. Hey, thank you so much, Tron. Yeah, we're throwing around some ideas because I want people to be involved. We just got to also be very, very careful because I'm telling you, man, there are people that would sign up in the Patreon group just to be able to call in, just to say something stupid and try to get us banned. Like that's a real thing, unfortunately, in 2025. So thank you so much for the super chat. And that's why we are going to continue to use the questions tab in our Patreon group to get your all's voices heard. And obviously the super chats here like King Tron did on YouTube. Appreciate you, buddy. And he just gifted 1 membership to a lucky viewer there. So
awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you.
So Max Crosby, Tim, some of the comments coming in here, just kind of looking and seeing what people are saying. Joseph says he wants out. Kind of get that vibe. He didn't say, oh, man, I want to be a Raider, but you never know what's going to happen. It kind of felt like he's wanting out now. Now, he did have another segment where he talked about Pete Carroll, and I think he even mentioned Pete Carroll being like, yeah, I mean, he's just like the cool grandpa type thing. And like, that ain't great. Like, you know what I mean? To look up and go, okay, do I want to tether myself to this organization for the rest of my career? And the coach is of that age. You don't know what the future may hold. You may be dealing with another coach here soon, right? So he says he wants out. Let's see here. J. Cole, bro, just request a damn trade. Reb Mo says Crosby is the current face of the Raiders franchise. Trading him will be a major risk, will be quite costly for the potential buyers, in my opinion. I think there's some truth to all that. Randy Cleavers, Crosby is a great player and wants a chance to be on a winning team. That's definitely the vibe I get there. Like he's saying, I love what he said there too, Tim, was like, I'm not talking about the damn Chiefs either. Just going over there trying to get a Super Bowl. I want to get it somewhere where it actually matters. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget, just to, devil's advocate here, he, like you said, the comments he made about Pete Carroll later on, he also alluded to the fact that he was happy with the direction that things seem to be going there in Vegas, and that he's been in contact with the team throughout the process. So I don't know if I'm going to go out on that limb and be like, oh, he definitely wants out. I think this is a guy that means exactly what he says. And this is why, you want a guy like this on your football team. He says, I want to be a Hall of Famer and I want to win a championship. And he's got the right attitude. He plays with reckless abandon. We know these things. This is a guy that's going to go balls to the wall for you 100% of the time. I'm not getting that vibe that he's trying to weasel his way out of Vegas. And let's remember, he is under contract. So it would have to be a trade deal. And I don't know with the debacle that has been the Vegas Raiders the last couple of seasons, man, I don't know if they're willing to just move their premier defender right now. Maybe they, they're thinking about what they have to do to keep him happy. And I think based on this interview, it means, contending and putting together a team that's going to contend. And, if he gets traded, it's going to have to be to a team that's got a chance. So, I don't know. I definitely get after seeing that interview with Kay, I understand the vibe here in Titletown that Packer fans want this guy in the green and gold because, he makes your team better for sure.
Yeah, no, he's a solid player, man. But, I was kind of looking at some of the statistics earlier across NFL Pro, and I'm going to pull up the Packers, so I'm not going to put it on screen, but I'm going to read this off to you guys. If you're wondering, okay, how did Max Crosby play in his most recent year here? We've got the stats ready to go. Let me just get over to the Packers because I love to compare them to current people on our roster, right? And you compare apples to apples here. So if you look at it from a standpoint of like pressures, run stops, and all that good stuff, Max Crosby last year had 53 pressures. That was a 12.3% quarterback pressure percentage. Some people look at that and they go, man, 53 pressures. Wow. You compare that to, say, a Rashawn Gary, right, who had 52 pressures. Now, Rashawn Gary played fewer snaps too than Max Crosby. So you got to take that into consideration. Max Crosby's pressure percentage was 12.3%. Rashawn Gary's was 13.4%. Oh, but Clayton, he had more sacks. No, he didn't. They both had 7.5 sacks. Well, he was hurt. Max Crosby's play time was 96.3%. Rashawn Gary's was only 58.4%. So when you look at total snaps, let's see, Gary had 605. Max Crosby had 725. You guys understand that Max Crosby had 120 more snaps than Rashawn Gary, and they had the same amount of sacks, and Gary had more pressures than Max Crosby? Well, he was hurt. How many ifs are we going to throw in there?
Yep.
How many buts are we going to throw in there? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Max is a bad football player. I'm simply saying, is it worth giving up all that draft capital? And we had this conversation about a month ago. And when somebody said, just give up a second and a third round pick for him. Okay, you can do that, right? If the Raiders are willing to do that. Now, Raiders fans laughed their asses off at Packer fans for saying that. Like, you think we're going to give him up for a second and a third round pick?
It's kind of like too old for this is saying, right? Like the Raiders trading him is basically making the statement that they don't intend to immediately contend, right? You're getting rid of a huge piece there.
And when you do that, guess what that does to everybody else on that roster? All of a sudden, more people went out, right?
Yep.
But just trying to look at it from both sides here, we raked Rashawn Gary, and I'm going to get a little pissed here when I say this. We raked Rashawn Gary over the damn coals last year. I mean, raked him over the coals to the point that Packer fans were saying he didn't deserve to make the Pro Bowl, blah, 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 blah. And then on the other hand, as Packer fans, we're screaming, go get Max Crosby. Rashawn Gary had a better season than Max Crosby. And again, Rashawn Gary didn't have a great season. He didn't have a defensive player of the year type season. But boy, it's just weird how not everybody, most people in our chat didn't, right? I'm just saying in general as a fan base, it's tough, man. It's like, this is why I love removing the names and throwing up the players.
The numbers. Yep.
Yeah. Because people, oh yeah, I'd take him, and Harvey, I'd take him. And then you tell the name, and then this, but yeah.
Well, we talked about this last night,
where you were screaming, kicking, and crying all year long because you didn't think Rashawn Gary was doing his job. It's just wild, man.
And we talked about it last night too, the hockey line mentality, right? We talk about this addiction that we seem to have with rotating guys constantly. Let's say you go get Max Crosby. Are you going to tell him, hey man, you're going to take a few plays off. We're going to rotate guys in. That doesn't fit his MO. You bring a guy like that into the fold to go be a dog and, play, 58 of 60 snaps in a game. I don't know how well that he would mesh, in our D line group if he's constantly being rotated. I think that's kind of like you're bringing a guy in and asking him to do things differently than he's done throughout his whole career,
All right. King Trons with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. So don't believe Max has a personality for Green Bay myself. I can see how people would see that. I could for sure. And like Red Mo says, this is a great point. Opposite Gary, I think they both eat. Absolutely. I think you're right. They can no longer chip Gary the way that's the other thing is the way they chipped Gary last year. And he still had a better season than Max. And he was much better in the run, I'm sure, if you were to break down the run stop ratio, because that's what got Gary into the Pro Bowl. And I'm not saying the Pro Bowl is everything. We know how that voting works.
Yeah,
it's a joke now. But I'm just saying that was the big thing that it's just wild how many former players were talking. Like, well, what's he done? I'm like, are you guys even watching what they're doing on Sunday? Like, and if you specifically ask people, well, you don't think he's doing his job in that TE, that heavy ET and ET stunt game? You don't think he's doing well? I'd have to watch it. Oh, so you haven't watched the tape? Holy cow! I can't believe I'm even wasting my time having this conversation when you ain't even looking at what's going on. Like, what are we doing?
What do you mean, man? I watched every single game exactly one time.
And here's my issue, Redmo. If we prioritize that with Max, then we're giving up draft capital, right? To bring Max in opposite Gary, and we've still got that void in the middle, right? Kenny did not play well last year. That's the thing. Kenny Clark should buy Rashawn Gary a damn car, because I'm telling you, Gary took the heat when it should have been Kenny last year. But Kenny's a great dude. He's a leader of the team. All that stuff applies. And they had him a lot of touch spine because they were trying to double him just like they were with Sean. I get all that. It all needs to be put into context and come into play. But I don't know, man. For me, it's just giving up draft picks for that dude. Now, when we look at the contract, we'll hit this and we'll get out of here. My phone's been blowing up. I got to make a phone call here in a second. So when you look at the contract this year, $22.2 million in base salary. The cap hit this year is 27.9. The dead cap attached is 10.2, meaning if the Raiders move on from him this year, they're going to have a cap hit of 10.2 million, but they're going to free up a significant amount of money, like 17.7 million, right? 17.7 million roughly they would free up. It makes sense for them to free up that money and then go get a younger edge defender, Tim. I can see that argument as well. From the Packers standpoint, as far as the money that would travel to the Packers, his base salary, $22.2 million, and his roster bonus of 552, workout bonus, $100,000, restructure, that's off the table. So you're looking at, to keep it easy here, Tim, you're looking at roughly $22 million in cap is what it looks like against the cap. Okay. Now, he said the contract is the other thing. What did he mean by that? What it means to me is he wants a new contract too. He wants stability. He wants, right? So what are you willing to pay someone who's 28 years old coming off an injury after you give up? You're willing to give up multiple draft picks for him, and you got to sign him to a new deal that's going to take him well beyond 30 years old. That just doesn't sound like a Goody move to me. Again, precedent. When was the last time we traded for a player that was going on 29 years old, coming off an injury, that you're going to have to sign a contract to extend him beyond 30 years old? It seems like there's too many red flags there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So Khalil Mack, you are the answer.
Yeah. 2-0 for this says 2025, Clayton. Context is illegals these days. There you go. Red Mo, I'm with you, Clayton. This offseason talk has my hopes up, and it's a fun conversation, but I absolutely will be been clamoring for interior defensive line for years now. Yeah, it's for the last 2 years. I've been saying, I won't say the name of the pod, but I put a super chat up about 3 years ago on an unnamed show on YouTube. Do that super chat up and said, hey, man, what do you think Kenny Clark's actually worth? And I got scoffed at. Kenny's worth whatever he wants. I went, oh, boy, okay. That was a smug ass.
Well, and that's what happened, right?
He got what he wanted.
What happened? He got what he wanted. What did we get?
There you go. And now it's funny, that same person, won't say the name, about a week and a half ago, man, it's time. We got to get us an interior defensive line. Oh, welcome to the party. There you go. Mr. High and Mighty. All right. That's it, guys. We're out. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. If you would, hit that like on the way out. I hate promoting that, but I'm being told by the people who are helping coach me, Clayton, you got to ask people to like the video or you're not going to be found. I don't know, man. Kind of dread the days when the channel gets to the point that we can't have these awesome conversations. It's going to get to the point where we can only focus on so much, you know. That's like the call-in aspect. I want to do that, but, man, the people who are helping me too are saying, don't do that. No, don't do that. You're setting yourself up for something. There's a reason no one else is doing it, Clayton. I'm like, that's why I want to do it. So always going against the grain. Shout out to King Tron, man. You were just way, way too generous today, man. All the super chats, gifting the membership. Been a member for a month now. You were absolutely awesome, dude. So everybody in the chat, thank y'all so much for your input. It's hilarious. I can't even look at the chat. We'll see you guys tonight, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. Everybody have a great day. Like I said, hit that like button on the way out. Bye.
And we go. We out. Bye, guys.